What's up, heroes, and welcome to episode 97 of the Producer Life podcast. Today's guest is Yera, better known in the Atlanta techno scene as Shakes. Yera is a diehard techno fan, fashionista, and the founder of Twisted Lines. Twisted Lines began in 2018 in the alleyways of LA, but it's grown into an Atlanta-based community of techno and house music lovers who build art events inspired by the underground warehouse raves of the 90s. Her events are much more than just themed music nights. Past events have incorporated sports car collectives, art installations, and they recently closed out Atlanta's Digital Art Week. During the interview, we talk about what has made Twisted Lines so successful, how to make your event stand out, and the things DJs need to know when working with an event promoter. But first, cue the intro music.
This is the Producer Life podcast with your host, the House Ninja. Bringing you actionable ideas to improve your music and get it heard.
All right, Yera, welcome to the Producer Life podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Really excited.
Yeah, this is, I haven't had a whole lot of promoters on here, but I'm really excited about this talk because you've really built an incredible scene here in Atlanta with Twisted Lines, and I'm looking forward to delving into how that came about and what you've done to make it so successful.
Perfect. I'm ready. Ready to talk about it.
Okay. I guess my first question is, you have this incredible passion for techno. Where did that come from? How did you first get into the techno scene?
It definitely originated from when I decided to move to California around 2016. I would say that like back in the day, I was a bass head.
Okay.
But when I moved to California, I was still like into the same type of music, and then I was just a promoter for this group called White Rabbit, and their shows were mainly house music, and they actually did a lot of genres, but it was a lot of house music. From there, I got invited to my first quote unquote underground show, and that's really where it all started. I just did not know what to expect at all. So when I got invited, it was, a really almost like weird location because it was just like in an alley, a random alley in LA. There was like nothing else around it. It was like pitch dark. And, out of nowhere, you walk to the location, you see a security guard outside. As soon as you like open the doors, it's like a whole new little fairy world inside because there's just so much going on and you find really interesting people. And the music, one of the main genres of music for underground shows in LA is techno. And then after that, I got really into shuffling, and I was in a shuffle group, and they were all like about techno, like just techno. So that's really where it all started, just finding a community that I really feel like I feel welcomed and warmed. And that was the underground community and the shuffle community. And of course, that was their main genre of music, techno.
Yeah, hard to shuffle the bass.
Yeah, definitely not possible.
What is underground? To different people, that means different things. So when you think of the underground music community, what does that mean to you?
To me, it definitely means a community that it's very open and welcoming to, different types of people that comes from all walks of life. And because for me, like, it was just really hard to find my place when I had just moved to a brand new city, and a city that's so big and there's so much going on. And it's just like when I would go to like clubs, I never would really find my place. And maybe I was just like not in the right clubs, or I wasn't maybe with the right people. But I feel like when I would go to these events that were underground, I never really felt like I had to put up a front of who I really was to feel like I could make friends. Because in reality, I can kind of be like shy. Like I'm not the first one to go up to someone and talk and make friends. So that would take a lot of me. But then when I would go to these underground shows, it was just, everybody was just so nice and welcoming, and they just didn't care. They just wanted to generally have a good time with you for one night, And for me, that's really where the underground came, is just a community where it's exclusive and inexclusive, everybody's welcomed, and it really just feels like there's no judgment in there. And that's really what made me fall in love with it. So for me, that's the true meaning of it. Of course, there's like a lot of meaning for it because, of course, there's also underground music. But for me, it's mainly about the community.
Okay. What brought you back to Atlanta?
So I was still working, like I still had my job in LA, but we were working in an office. Once COVID started, we had to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And within like the first month, I guess it was like really bad over there. Like we really could not, go out anywhere. There was curfews. It was really, really bad. So at that point, I was like, I'd rather be with my family if things get really ugly. So I came back to Atlanta. I was still working from home. Throughout that time, I really felt like I was gonna go back, and I was just waiting, like, okay, like anytime soon, like I'm just gonna go back and my life's just gonna proceed. And I just thought things were gonna go back to the same thing. And then months went by. I guess it was around June or July that the office I was working for laid me off. And at that point, I was like, well, I feel like I just don't really have much to go back to. I mean, of course, I had my friends and everything else. At the same time, it was really nice to be back home, and I felt
Mm-hmm.
really grounded. Um, like it was like a good break. So then I was like, I'm just gonna stay, and I ended up just staying.
Okay. All right. Well, lots of people are glad you did. So where did Twisted Lines come in at that point? Or how long after you moved back did you conceive of this art music collective?
So it had already started. I started it back in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and I had about 3 shows in LA. And then when I came back, I had just done one in 2020, at the beginning of 2020. It was in February, I believe. And then when I came back to Atlanta, the first one happened in June, the very first one, June or July.
Okay. So not too much of a break there. Um, what? So where does the name Twisted Lines come from?
So Twisted Lines is, like we're all human beings going through like our own path, our own walk in life. At some
Mm-hmm.
point in our life, we cross each other, and that's where a twisted line comes in from. So,
Oh, okay.
yes, so the meaning of it is just, we're all collectively just walking through life. At some point, we cross each other, and then there's a bunch of twisted lines that get formed,
Okay.
metaphorically. Yeah.
Cool. Our interconnectedness.
Yeah.
So what would you say? I mean, there's a lot of promoters out there, but I noticed that in some of the descriptions of Twisted Lines, you've been called a music collective instead of like just a music promoter. What's the distinction you're drawing there?
For me, it's really important to just connect with not just artists and DJs, but with, all types of artists. So if you're a photographer, if you like to model, if you like to do graphic design, if you like to do merch, for me, it's like really important to connect with every type of artist because I feel like sometimes it's really important to just be a part of something and it helps you find your way into what you really like or helps you meet other people in the scene. So a collective is more welcoming of, it doesn't matter if you know how to DJ or if you produce music, but maybe you like to dance and you know how to dance and, another form of art. I think that's what I mean by that. So
Okay.
very welcoming into like other forms of art, or if anybody ever wants to collaborate in like a photo shoot, I'm very open to it because I really thrive with working with other people and just exchanging ideas.
It's interesting because one of the things that I think makes Twisted Lines so distinctive is that it is much more than a music event. I was looking back at some of your earlier Instagram posts and some of the collaborations you had with sports car groups, coming out and showcasing their work and art installations. And of course, this last week with the big digital art week, you guys capping that off, it's not just, hey, we're going to play some music and people are going to dance. You really go out of your way to make it a much more holistic art experience.
Right, definitely. I think with since starting off in LA, it was really, really competitive because there was, like a show every 2 mile radius. So I had to really focus on how I was going to make myself different from everybody else. And the only way that I could possibly do it with such a low budget was to make the experience unique and like different. And, like maybe this is not happening once every 2 weeks or whatever. Like, it's going to happen like once every few months. So that's where I really started to like focusing on the experience in itself, from the moment you walk in to like if there's food, of course, like art installations or other performers, like how you said, like the cars, like that was a really good night. That's when I kind of found my way of, okay, I really want to focus on this, because that was only my second event, and it really, really helped me figure out what I wanted to do with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm drawing parallels. My very first guest on this podcast about 2 years ago, so I kind of got my start podcasting about the same time this started, was Lauren Hardy, who runs Bass Night Orlando. And he started very much with, underground back rooms, alleys, anywhere he could. And he's got this incredible passion for bass music, much like you have for techno. And he's built this phenomenal following there. Last time I went to one of the events, he had 300 people out on a Monday night.
Nice.
And but he's doing something similar in that he's bringing in artists, he's bringing in flow artists, he's bringing in, every time you go, it's like a little festival. He's got all sorts of merchants and vendors there. So it's really interesting. I'll have to link that in the show notes, and I'll send you a link as well, because you'd be interested in that, especially since you probably still listen to some bass here and there.
Yeah.
So talking about the Digital Art Week this past weekend, how did that go?
That was really interesting for me, because I'm trying to learn about everything that's coming up with their world, like the metaverse and NFTs and VR. Like, I'm really trying to learn, but I think it really took that experience also for myself to see how much we could do in the future. Like now you can really be submerged in just like so many different points of art. I really enjoyed it myself. I was supposed to have my first NFT drop, but that did not happen. But I'm still working on that. But it went really, really well. And I think that's also just important to have at events for other things to be happening, so that, your mind can also just be entertained in different forms. Like if you want to take a break and just want to drink some water, then at that point you have something to look at, and, it could even give you an idea. But I really enjoyed it. Like the artists were phenomenal. They were so, so, so talented. So yeah, it was a really good experience for me. I was kind of also really curious to see how people were going to respond to it. And funny enough, I know that a couple of people only came for the reason that they wanted to look at this art, and the music was an addition. So I think it was a really good experience. And of course, like just trying something new. Definitely hoping to do more stuff like that in the future.
Yeah, I expect that's a good way to get introduce people to underground techno. If you have those crossover events. I went to a really interesting one recently. I don't know if you've heard of Trap Sushi here in Atlanta, but it's a group that does a lot of trap and hip hop music. But then they had Beltline Cosplay come out and do a cosplay competition, and they also brought in sushi, a sushi restaurant, and they also had some cars. It was very, very much a hip hop anime cosplay thing at this brewery in downtown Atlanta. But it was a lot of fun. It was a cool combination of sort of multiple different, I guess, subcultures.
Right.
So it was fun. So you guys, it seems like you guys have grown beyond the sort of back alley early Twisted Lines days. You guys were the first to do an underground Atlanta, this huge complex in downtown Atlanta, and use that as a venue. How did that come about?
So that was really never in the plans. Like we never had that in our calendar, and we're like, okay, like 5 months from now, we're gonna do a huge block party. Let's prepare. Initially, what was happening is that we already had a special guest coming in for July 9th. So I was like, okay, perfect. Like, let's make it a 1 year celebration. Let's have a really cool production. At that point, we were working with His name is Matt, and he does like amazing stage design and lighting. So we were working with him a lot, and then he was sending us like sketches of how the stage was gonna look, and we were like, perfect. Like that's mainly what we were focusing on, a really big and awesome stage, but at a big location, but nothing like underground. So that's what we're focusing on, and we had found sorry, we had found a venue, but I kind of had a realization because I realized that the venue didn't have an outdoor area. And at that point, we were like, okay, like, great, we found a venue. Like, let's keep on, working. Because we were having an LA show in like the next 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, great. Like, let's keep things moving. Like, we found a venue, but it doesn't have an outdoor area, like. But then I had a realization where I was like, okay, this is like just something doesn't feel right. It feels like I'm not really working as hard as I used to work, trying to get all these components. So I had a meeting with the team and I was like, guys, I feel like, from the beginning, like the reason why people started to come is because they really like the experience. And sometimes the experience includes, having like an outdoor area that you can take a smoke break and eat some tacos and just like chill for a second. So at that point, I was like, yeah, we're not going to stop. We're going to find another venue. We're not going to stop until we find a venue that's reasonable for what we want to do. So I believe that was the week of the week before I left to LA for the LA show. And I was just calling all of the connections that I have, asking if, maybe they had any venue. And I met up with one of my colleagues, and then he was showing me this other venue that I did not end up using. But that's when I met Chris Plitcher. He's the creative director of Underground. He happened to be at the same place where I was, where this other venue was located. And this was the very day before I left to LA. Pretty much I was like, okay, like I just really want to get this done. Like, let's go ahead and do it. I dropped everything I was doing, hoping that, this venue that I was going to go check out was going to be it. But it wasn't. It was too small. And like I said, Chris P happened to be there. And then we just started talking. And he was like, oh, yeah, like we have, a lot of cool plans for the development of Underground. And then I was like, Underground Atlanta? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, for real? Because I used to go there when I was a kid. I think I was like 12 or 13. I would go with my mom to these really big Latin festivals. And for as long as I could remember, like Underground was just closed and it was dead. And, every time I drove past it, I would get so sad because I had really, really good memories there. And so when he said like, yeah, it's Underground Atlanta, I was like, that's crazy. And then, he invited me to go see it. And at that point, I was like fangirling inside. I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna, go inside Underground Atlanta. Like it hasn't been open in so long. Like I was so excited. So we went to Underground Atlanta. And at that point, there was like absolutely nothing there, like nothing. Like it was just, vacant from top to bottom. And then we were walking through all these floors. And then he was like, yeah, like if you want, you can do an event in one of these spaces. And then I was like, what space? And he was like, any space you want. And I was like, for real? So, but this was 2 weeks before July 9th. And I was already going to leave. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Was it 2 weeks? I can't really remember. It was 3 weeks before July 9th. I was going to leave for LA for about 4 days to do this LA show. So realistically, we only had 2 weeks to plan and to promote. So it was, for me, it was just like, this is like a one-time opportunity that it's not going to happen again because eventually they are going to start bringing people in. And, some people might not be happy if there's like a rave going inside next to their store or, whatever. At the other time, it's like we only have like a very short amount to plan. Can we pull this off? So I got his phone number and I was like, okay, it was great to meet you. I will definitely let you know. He also had to check back if we could make it happen for that date as well with the owners. So I left to LA the very next day. And then I was there, I believe, like starting Wednesday. And then the very next day that I arrived, I started to once again contact everybody that I knew in the scene that had done big projects like this, as also as friends that I know like have, big businesses or have done really big things, because I just didn't know how to like, pull this off financially. And like what did I have to do to pretty much make it successful, because it was going to be really really big for me, like my first time. So I started to get advice, and then they were like, okay, like, you should do this, and, do this percentage, waste this on that. They were just giving me tips. And then at that point I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Like, if it works out, if it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I called Chris and I was like, I'm on board. Let's do it. We have 2 weeks. So we really have to just, it's going to be like a very intense next 2 weeks. And yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. And, it was amazing. It was really a once in a lifetime thing, because now all of underground Atlanta, like, there's no way to use all that space how we used it before, because we had the main stage where the very end of the Banksy exhibit is. And then we had the second stage all the way on the other escalators. And now, like, there's really, no way to recreate that unless, they tore down all those walls that have now been built up. And then we had a third stage in one of the storefronts that also has an artist in there now. So it was truly an amazing experience. And of course, with, Georgia weather, initially we were going to have it outside, but it ended up raining, which is why we had to have it all inside. But I think that was really like the best way it could have worked out.
Yeah. Sounds absolutely awesome. So that was a 2-week scramble. What's your preferred timeline? How far out do you usually start planning events?
I actually, for me, like, a comfortable time is a month, because if it's more than a month, like, I will set a date for, like, let's say, let's do something in August or whichever. But for me to, like, really, like, be tunnel focused and just put all my energy and time, I usually like to do it the month before, month and a half, if it's going to be a really big one.
Okay. And what does it take? I mean, you talked about a lot of the phone calls for the location and trying to find the venues. I guess that's the first question is, can you walk me through kind of the process for putting on an event? Do you identify your location first, your artist first? What are some of the things that you have to factor in and consider?
So before we started booking quote unquote headliners, we would just work with our friends, and pretty much the main component at that point was finding a venue, and then everything else will fall into place. Now that we're starting to book international talent, and we have to book them in advance, we have to have already a venue in place, way before we reach out to them, because we have to give them that information, capacity, where it's going to be located, everything like that. So now I have really focused more on just finding very, how do I say, reliable venues that I know that are going to be good for the night. I already have, we have already worked previously together, and if we haven't, then I have already had like meetings with them, gotten like all the details out. And then now I'm really focusing on just filling our calendar up with talent, European techno DJs that we want to bring, as well as other DJs like that live in the United States. But after booking the artist and having established the date and the artist is locked in already, for the rest of the month, that's when we really focus on the experience, such as the theme and operations, which, it includes everything from security guards to an EMT. And like this past one that we just had for Shlomo, we had a cop there. So after, it has been established, the date and the artist, then it's operations, making sure that it's run very smoothly. I'm really big on security and just, feeling safe, because I'm a woman myself. So I can definitely know what it feels like to go to an unknown place and then it's dark everywhere. So I really try to focus a lot on just having protocols with our security guards if they see something out of the norm, or, maybe having an extra 1 or 2 security guards that are available at the front in case somebody just wants to have someone to walk to their car with. and like maybe they just don't feel safe. So the next process is just focusing a lot on operations, making sure it's going to run smoothly. And then during that, also the experience. Are we going to have a theme? Are we going to have performers and that sort of thing? Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot of stuff to juggle. Now, is it, there's several people that work on your team, right? It's not just you.
Yeah. We definitely have I would say it's a team of about 4 to 5 people now. Everybody has like different tasks, but it's a new thing that we have this many people in our team. Like before, it was just me, my business partner, and our production manager. Mm-hmm. But now I'm definitely starting to grow it a little bit more, just because we're trying to have more dates, not just in Atlanta, but in other states. So sometimes if I can't focus, like in another state or here, then I can have someone take over that. But I would say it's a very, very new thing that our team is recently growing. Definitely trying to learn on that as well, because this is the first time that I've ever, like managed a team of like, okay, like you focus on this, I focus on this. So it's a very new thing for me, but it's been exciting and of course like scary at the same time, because at the same time, everything falls back on me. So it is a sense of responsibility, but I just try to really just enjoy it. For me, like it's enjoying the process. Before, I would just try to get through an event and just making sure it was successful. And everything before that seemed like a blur. Like I just could not remember so many things. Now I try to just like really be present from the very start. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm just like, okay, like I'm waking up and I have a lot of things to do, but I'm just going to enjoy it because I'm working towards something that I love. Pretty much.
It looked like when the Sam Wolf Masquerade event that you guys did a couple of weeks ago when I was there and I ran into you, I mean, you look like you were just having a really good time. So I guess that's your reward for all the effort you put in. You get to enjoy the music and relax a little bit, or do you find yourself still getting sucked into operations even the night of the event?
We did actually have an emergency that night. So that was and it's funny enough, I told the people that were working at the front, like, just, text me unless it's an emergency. And then it was, but it just happened like once that night. Before, like when I had just started to make events, I noticed that throughout the whole night, I would be very stressed about every little thing. And then as I started to do more and more events, I just started to realize that, things are eventually going to happen. I'm starting this new thing where I write a letter to myself before the morning of an event. And in the letter, I always tell myself like something might not go right, might not go to plan, but I just have to like breathe and keep going and enjoy whatever does go right. So it's definitely something that I have adapted, and it has helped me so much, because before, like I would have an event. Like I had this really big mansion party in LA. It was a sold out show. I had over 400 people. It was really, really crazy. And there was a line outside, and I just couldn't believe that I had done that in like such like a city like LA, where there was like so many things happening. But I can honestly say that I myself don't even remember that night, because I was stressed 24/7. And I wish I could just relive that night, and I can't, but that's what I really learned, to just, enjoy it, even if it's not going to plan, or, it usually is, but I'm saying like, 1 or 2 things are going to happen and it's going to disrupt things a little bit. But the point is just to relax and keep going. Easier said than done, but I'm definitely learning that. Yeah.
If you could offer Yera some advice 2 years ago, what would you say to her?
To not worry about, I would tell myself that to not worry about not running out of creative ideas. Before, that was my main concern. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to sustain this brand if I don't know what to do next. I would just definitely tell myself to not worry, to really trust myself, and to choose my mental health first, because I used to not do that. To choose my mental health first, because it definitely all ties together.
Okay. obviously DJs are a big part of the performance, not the only part, but it's a big piece of it. What do you wish? What do DJs need to know about working with promoters?
Hmm. I would definitely say that, when we have like new artists that play for us, it's really easy to, how do I say it? Oh, sorry, I'm trying to find like a right way to say this. Okay, so when artists reach out to us, sometimes, all we need is just like a 30-minute mix. Um, so we have had occasions where artists that had already played for us reach out to us and they introduce themselves, and they send a 30-minute mix, and then we listen to it, and then we get them in our lineup. And that
Mhm.
helps a lot because then, just like sending like a SoundCloud link or just like a link to the mix and explaining what type of genre you play, it helps a lot in a way that we know what event you could fit in. Because if you just play tech house, then a night that's full of techno might not be good for you, but maybe one of the summer parties that is going to happen during the day and it's going to be very housey, you could fit right in there. So I think just specifying like what you're truly passionate about, because I know a lot of DJs like to play different genres. I do believe that also they have a forte, like something that they're just more passionate about and they really enjoy. And I think if they really enjoy it, then the crowd can also feel that. Um, so I think that's important. And then when it comes to just like the night of, if they have already been booked, I actually have never really had a problem with any new artists that I've worked with in Atlanta that I can think of that they could, do better. It would probably
Okay.
just be that. I really do enjoy when it has happened to me once. I was at an alley cat party and his name is Ben. He just came up to me and he was like, "Hey, you're Shakes, right?" And then, he introduced himself and then he was like, "Well, like I just moved here and I would really like to play an event." And then I believe I got him on for that weekend because we
Wow.
had a bad boombox headlined. And I was like, "Great, you want to play? Amazing. Like, what do you play?" And then, he was like, I can custom my BPM depending on what type of night it is. So then I was able to find one extra spot for him in the lineup. So sometimes it can be really easy like that. Once again, like networking and just, introducing yourself, I think it can go a really long way. And I know it's not easy a lot of times because I myself try to network a lot. And sometimes I just like, oh, I don't want to do this right now because maybe I'm just like not in the best, in the best mood, or like I just don't know if the conversation is going to go good or it's going to go awkward. But like you just never really know. I know that my friends have gave me feedback that when people come up to me, I can be really short and I start to like play with my hands a lot. Once again, like I know I like do big events, but I can also be like really shy myself. So like I totally understand, if it takes a lot, but I think yeah, just like saying hi in person could go a long way.
Okay. What I believe I saw a while back you guys were launching a merch line, but I was looking on the website and I was looking your Instagram. I haven't seen anything about that recently. Is that still a route you're taking, or what's going on with the merch line?
So it's something that I have actually changed my mind on how I want to go about it. Usually, when we sell merch, it's because we're gonna sell it at a specific event. So if you got a shirt, it's because you actually went to an event. There's no way to get a shirt other than you know you actually being there. And I think that could be like a really unique thing about it
Mhm.
is that you can't get merch online. Like it's a once in a I guess you can say lifetime drop because it only goes with that event. And if you got it, you got it. If you don't, then we're just gonna have more drops. However, usually with the merch line, I'm really passionate about fashion, like nightlife fashion. That's why I really like
Mhm.
to do photo shoots and promo shoots. I think that for me, it helps me be a lot more confident when I'm running a night or when I'm going out. So that's where I'm trying to mix those together. And it's definitely been a learning progress of how I want to do it. So if I'm dropping a complete merch line where it's going to be attached to a website, I definitely want it to be more than just t-shirts. I want it to be like more custom apparels, like maybe it has also harnesses, like or accessory stuff like that. And that's definitely going to take more time of me. At the
Yeah.
very beginning, when I did the very first drop and I did a photo shoot in LA, those pictures were like perfect for Shopify, and I had uploaded it. And then I ended up just not doing it because I realized that, like it was just like a deeper meaning for me where I was like, I don't want it to just be a t-shirt. I want it to also just be all like this different accessories and this, different type of apparel that it is for sure going to take a little longer. And actually, one of our DJs, his name's Brent. He goes by Giyu. He
Mhm.
His first gig was at Twisted Lines, and he goes to school for, I believe he said like fashion marketing or somewhere along those lines. So
Oh, okay.
we talked about it, and then I was like, hey, like I honestly don't know how the conversation came about, but he told me what he was going to school for, and he was like, one of the things that I focus on is doing like pop-up shops. And I was like, that's funny because I want to do a pop-up shop. So we're planning on meeting up, having a meeting, and like talking about ideas. So then that's where I say like the beauty of like working together, even if later down the road you can like collaborate on something, is just amazing for me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You never know where somebody's hidden talents lie.
Yeah. So I really do want to have a pop-up merch shop soon, inspired by a pop-up shop that I went to in LA by Nightbase, where AC Slater had a bunch of surprise DJs come and DJ while there was, and it was a free show, and his merch was just all over this gallery, and it was really really fun. So I really want to do something like that soon.
I'm not quite clear. What do you mean by a pop-up merch shop?
So it was like at a location. I would say like a store, like an empty store, and that store just had night-based shirts and merch all over it. And then in one side they had like a very simple DJ booth, which is just really like a table with some CDJs. And because it was a night-based pop-up shop, then he had artists that are signed under that label come and DJ. I think Wax Motif came, and then Sam, what's his, no, sorry, I can't remember his name. Something Armstrong. He's a house
Hmm.
DJ as well.
Okay.
So they all came and they DJ'd, and it was really really fun. Like it was kind of like a daytime event where anybody could come. It was a free event, but like the merch was all over the place, and that was kind of like the main incentive. Like, come by merch and have fun, and you might not know who you're gonna see perform there.
Okay.
Mhm.
If you had I'm not going to say unlimited, but if you had a $500,000 budget for an event, what would be sort of be your what would you do? What sort of an event would you put on, and where would you have it, and sort of dream big? What would you do?
Definitely a downtown techno music festival. I've always dreamed of having a a festival. It doesn't have to be huge, but in downtown, because I like to go for this industrial look.
Hmm.
So if we could have it like in downtown Atlanta in a really awesome area, I actually can't think of an area yet, but if it would be in downtown Atlanta, and then we could have these awesome stages like what Factory 93 does, I believe that'd be the first thing I would focus
Yeah.
on.
Okay.
Yeah, super industrial, and I've always wanted to have this stage design with ship containers. I saw
Oh,
it
okay.
once for, I believe it was 3 points. It was like just a stage built out of shipping containers or etc. I can't remember, but something very industrial that definitely takes a lot of money, and just have techno and house headlining acts. That would definitely be the first
Yeah.
thing I would go to.
That's a cool idea. I wonder how the resonance from those shipping containers would affect all the subs. I mean, I could see in some ways it might amplify it, but in some ways it might just be a horrific sort of sub muddy mess. Just because of the resonances, as a producer, we're always concerned about having cabinets in the room and that sort of thing that may vibrate at certain frequencies, but
Hmm.
would certainly look cool.
Yeah, it will look cool. Even if we could have it at the entrance. It's definitely
Yeah.
having an idea of mine that I've been just having in the back of my head forever, that I know, would take a lot of money to make a stage like that be possible. But yeah.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you've ever been down to Pinewood Studios outside of Peachtree City. There's I'm not sure if it's a venue or a production shop called the Shipyard, and at least the front of the building consists of a bunch of shipping containers. And I've driven past it a couple times and kept thinking, that looks like a really cool building. I had to check it out, but yeah, looks pretty awesome.
That would be pretty cool to check out. Definitely. You said Shipyard?
Shipyard. Yeah. I'll have to look into that, and I'll shoot you a link, see if I can find out a little bit more about it. I'm not sure if it's a venue or if it's a part of the production company for Pinewood Studios, but
okay.
One of the things that surprised me, thinking about merch and other places that would sort of make sense for Twisted Lines to go. I looked on Spotify. I did not see a Twisted Lines Spotify playlist. Have you guys ever thought about setting up a playlist for your followers that sort of promotes all the artists that you're looking at and that underground techno sound?
Yeah, we did have one, but it just pretty much like the owner of the account, we don't have access to that account anymore, so we had to start one from ground up. But yeah, we did have a little one, but definitely want to start that again. I definitely do feel like there's a lot of small components like that we just haven't done yet, since we've been just doing event after event. But that's definitely something that I really want to focus in. Yeah,
it's always a question of time and where to best spend your time. So yeah, absolutely. So all right. Well, tell me about plans for this year. We're a couple of months in. What's next for Twisted Lines, and what are your plans for the next 12 months?
I definitely would say that last year was a great year. We had a lot of amazing talent and a lot of really big events. But it was also just it made me reflect that what I really, really actually want to focus on is more industrial, techno, European, even hardcore. And I think for this year, that's really what I've started to just put my attention on. And, I love house music, and I know we're definitely going to have one or two shows that are house music. But for this year, it's just really focusing on techno, harder techno, dark techno, and like I said, even hardcore. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're going to have the anniversary for the block party, the anniversary for the block party, which last year we had a surprise guest. And then this time we're actually going to have a headliner. And me and Sam Wolf have worked in projects like the last year where he brought people and, I helped curate the show. So we're definitely going to surprise people with a couple of acts that we're bringing this year. And yeah, that's definitely just my plans, is just focusing more on techno, building the sound and the community, of course. But I'm definitely excited for the summer. We do have a lot of outdoor parties planned. So those are going to be really fun. They should start around in the beginning of May. Mm-hmm. Last year we were trying to make that happen a lot more than it did, but it was factors of weather and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that we're going to have more this year. But yeah, those are the plans for this year.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, I wish you guys good luck and look forward to seeing you at some of your shows. And what are the best places for my listeners to connect with Twisted Lines?
Definitely our Instagram. Yeah. At Twisted Lines LLC.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, I will make sure to include that link in the show notes. And again, thanks so much for your time today, Yera.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. Super grateful.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the interview, please take a moment to leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. Also, if you're in the Atlanta area and you'd like to attend a Twisted Lines event, come check out the links on the show notes page at producerlifepodcast.com and then look for episode 97. Until next time, this is the House Ninja, reminding you to be somebody's hero today.